Hello everybody, this is Daniel Lee, also known as Taflicants, and we're here to talk about the Switch and the possibility of Melee on a next generation platform. Now of course, this is still speculative, but Eurogamer recently in an article posted that Melee was going to come in the form of virtual console for the next Nintendo console. Now this is very interesting for an event organizer and also as a Melee figurehead, but of course, we have to qualify what makes this a potentially good port and what would cause us to actually switch to using this as opposed to the original Super Smash Bros. Melee on the GameCube or the Wii. And of course, there are a few criteria that we need as a community. First, it needs to be exactly the same. So if there's any kind of additional input lag or frame issues that come up, then this is actually a deal breaker. So if there's any of those kind of issues that come up with the translating of this to the next generation of the Switch, then it's a no-go. And of course, we've had issues come up with other games that have been ported over. For example, for Smash 64, when it got moved to the virtual console, there were issues with the frames and the lag that people don't use it for tournaments today. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is another example where the Dreamcast port was really good because it was based on similar hardware to the arcade, but later ports for the PS2, PS3, and Xbox 360 were no good because of all the issues with frames and lag that people didn't adopt those formats. So that's the first thing that's required. Furthermore, we also have to have some sort of GameCube controller adapter to it. For the Wii U and Smash 4, they were able to add this USB connection to connect GameCube controllers. And for the Switch, we need that as well because people aren't gonna completely abandon the GameCube controller to switch to another format. So those are the two base requirements. So for fighting game tournament organizers, the larger tournaments that incorporate Street Fighter and the newer generation of fighting games, it would be a lot easier for them to include Melee because now we use the same TVs. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, can't you just Craigslist one CRT? And yes, it's easy to find one or two CRTs, but imagine if you're a tournament organizer and all of a sudden you have to find 50 TVs. Good luck Craigslisting for all of those and finding TVs that also meet a certain set of requirements that are, fit for tournament play. It can't be too small, it can't be too large because it'd be too heavy. So there are a lot of restrictions. And what tournament organizers are doing now is they're using services like Gaming Generations to bring CRTs over. Unfortunately, CRTs are very heavy. And as a result, even though CRTs are cheaper than flat screen LED monitors, they're much more expensive to ship out, so the costs are actually more. So we'd be able to move to LCDs and be more coordinated with other events, which is a huge plus for us. Now there's a big question that comes up, and that's whether we use PAL or NTSC. NTSC is primarily used for North American events and also for events in Japan, but PAL is used in Europe, and the big question comes up of, if this is getting ported to the virtual console, which version of the game are we going to get? And personally, I don't think this is a deal breaker, because if this ends up being a really good port where there's no frame issues that I mentioned before, whether it's PAL or whether it's NTSC, it doesn't matter in my book. Now, another big plus is that Nintendo support has been kind of, for lack of better words, not been there. You don't really see these nice big prize pods. You see Nintendo sponsoring events, but it doesn't mean a lot other than we just get to use their licensing. But now if we put this in the store, it gives Nintendo more of an incentive to work with the community to produce events, to provide support in the form of finances, venues, because Nintendo's also making profit off of this too, so there's a shared interest. And I think that's pretty significant, because I really do believe that if Melee does exist and it is successful for sales on the Switch, that they will be more supportive of us as a community. And not only that, it's really hard to find Melee. The accessibility is really bad. So having direct access for the consumer that's not hyper competitive is ultimately really good for us. Because right now, if you really want to play Melee, you have to find a Wii or a GameCube, you have to find a disc, and you have to find a TV. So those are all big barriers. Now, of course, you can say, well, you can pirate the game, you can play on your computer. Well, that's still not directly accessible to, as opposed to, let's say it's on the virtual console, you open up your Switch and you see, oh, Melee's there, I can just buy it right there. And that's huge for us. And it also is pretty nifty, for the Switch, if you look at the use cases of it, you can play it on the airport, you can play it in the car, it's pretty portable because it has a screen there, and I think that's pretty cool. Now, we talked about some negatives, it's not frame perfect, there's lag issues, and obviously it's a no-go. With that being said, I don't really foresee them adding new features because it seems like it's a virtual console emulation type of deal. But I want to present my wish list. Let's say Nintendo's matching magically listening to this video. Some things that'd be pretty cool to have, although I'm doubtful they're gonna include new features. Online play would be pretty cool. We already see that with faster melee, having really good lag input where it's comparable actually to playing in person. I personally enjoy it, and I think there's a possibility of making that successful. I'm not sure if Nintendo adopts it, but that'd be really cool, and it would develop the competitive scene even further. Another thing I would really like to see, HD textures would be pretty cool. I'm not saying it's necessary, but I think they could actually do something really cool with this. Let's say they added skins for Fox. So let's say Mango plays Fox, and there's a Cloud9 skin available for money. I would gladly pay money to support those kind of skins, and I think that would bring in money and more infrastructure to the scene where Nintendo could be making hundreds of thousands of dollars to pour back into the scene and support it with larger prize pots and better support and better resources. So that'd be really cool. Me being the data junkie, I would love to see a UI similar to Dota or League of Legends where we could dump out all the outputs. Who controls center stage more? Who deals more damage? What's the APM of these people playing these characters? Fizzy from the Smash scene has created hardware to track that, and I know that's within the realm of possibilities, and it'd be a nice to have. Of course, this is all speculative. We don't know for sure yet. The sources are pretty reliable with their credibility, and I hope that it comes out. It gives us more options. And ultimately, we still have a good baseline. If it turns out it doesn't really work out for us, we still have a successful community regardless. So I don't see it as doom and gloom if it doesn't quite work out. We still have Melee, it's still growing, it's still awesome.